into grammar. Alrighty, so we're on grammar page 31. Page 31. Oops, okay. My camera is not awake yet. It's weird. Sometimes it just doesn't want to. I don't blame it. I mean, I kind of feel that way too sometimes. Like, can't I just go back to bed? Why do I have to get up? Okay, here it comes. Then I gotta find my page here. 31. Getting there. There we go. We got this. We got this. We totally got this. Okay. We're talking about apostrophes. You guys know about those. We use them quite a bit with different words. And it's just going to talk about, when we use apostrophes. It's to indicate a missing letter or ownership. So a contraction, you guys know, are two words that they put together, removing some of the letters, and then we use an apostrophe for those. Like here, I'm, heel, and weave. These are all contractions that were originally two words. And then we have possessive adjective, and that shows ownership of something. So if something belongs to you, like Kylie's sweatshirt, it's the sweatshirt belongs to Kylie, right? So you would use an apostrophe S on that. And then here's your example right here. Mowgli listened to the birds' song. Obviously, birds has an apostrophe S. That's a possessive adjective telling whose song is it. The song belongs to the bird. So that's why we use an apostrophe S there. Mowgli listened to the birds. This is more plural noun, birds, more than one. So he's listening to the birds, but if he's listening to their song, it has an apostrophe S. Okay, they're going to mess up on purpose, like this example here in the middle of your page. You have to figure out what the problem is and how to fix it. The animals declared, "We'll accept the pack's ruling." So here is plural animals, so we don't need an apostrophe there. Wheel needs an apostrophe because otherwise it'll say well, and that won't make sense. Well, accept. So it's wheel accept. The pack's ruling. The ruling belongs to the pack. So that's why we have an apostrophe there. So you're either going to take it out, kind of like how we do with commas, or put them in, depending on the sentence and what's going on. So then we're going to talk about indefinite pronouns. There's some categories here for those. An indefinite pronoun is not definite. Ooh, that's deep. Indefinite means not definite, in case you didn't know that. It does not refer to a particular person or thing. The words below are indefinite pronouns. So these are like vague words, like it's not specific. Singular and plural, this is your list of both. All, any, more, most, none, some. Talking about something, but very vague. It's not specific like an exact number. Okay, these are just vague groupings of numbers, basically. Plural, both, few, many, others, own, several. And then back to, these are all just singular, indefinite pronouns. Another, anybody, anyone, anything, anywhere, each, either, everybody, everyone, everything, everywhere, much, neither, nobody, no one, nothing, nowhere, one, other, somebody, someone, something, somewhere. They're pretty easy to spot. They're just not specific. That's the thing you need to remember. Indefinite means not specific or not definite. You're just going to put a PR above each pronoun because these are considered now pronouns, along with he, her, she, him, those types of pronouns. Those are personal pronouns. These are indefinite pronouns. So we're going to label them the same though, PR. Will someone speak for Mowgli? So someone is the pronoun in that sentence. A little bit about quotation marks. and attributions. When an attribution interrupts a quoted sentence, follow the established rules, use commas to separate the attribution from the direct quote, capitalize the first word of the quoted sentence, do not capitalize the attribution unless it begins the sentence. We've talked about these before. Your example at the very bottom, which of you, the wolf asked, will speak for Mowgli? Notice inside the quote, you're going to treat it like a sentence. You're going to always use a capital letter at the beginning of the quote, but it has the attribution in the middle here. That's where it's a little tricky because you need a comma after the first part of what he says, because he says more later. So you put a comma and then the quotation mark. This T for the is not capitalized because it comes after the quote. And then another comma, and then the rest of the quote. And notice right here that W in will is not capitalized because he's finishing what he's saying. Which of you, the wolf asked, will speak for Mowgli? So those are some capitalization and quotation mark rules when you have a speaking character. Do you guys have any questions about that page at all? Okay. There's more on the back, so let's keep going. We're talking about subject-verb agreement here and usage. Way back in week 2, you learned that a personal pronoun should agree with its antecedent in number. Number means one singular or more than one plural. The subject and its verb must also agree in number. So there's a rule about that, which you guys naturally do that because you speak English, and you'll see what I mean. It's kind of natural to see how this flows. If the subject is singular, the verb should be singular. If the subject is plural, the verb should be plural. A plural noun usually ends in S, right? If there's more than one, it usually ends in S. And a singular noun does not. 1 boy, 2 boys, 5 boys. However, the verb is formed in the opposite way. That's something you need to know. A singular verb usually ends in an S, and a plural verb does not. The boy wanders. So notice it's boy singular, wanders has the S. It doesn't mean wanders is plural. It's just you add an S to the verb. Because if you just have the boy wander, it sounds weird. Okay, you'll be able to tell right here, the boys wander. Well, this one sounds right because we have boys plural. The boys wander. So there's no S on the verb here because we have a plural verb, a plural noun here, boys. The boy wanders, the boys wander. And think about if I said the boys wanders, it just doesn't sound right. So just think about how it sounds. That'll help you a lot. Then we've got the verbs have, do, and be. They can function as either a main verb or a helping verb. Although the spelling of these verbs changes, the principle does not. Singular nouns use the verb form that ends in S. Has, does, is, was. So it even works for those verbs. They end in S. When it's singular, when the noun is singular, the verbs end in S. Plural nouns use the form that does not end in S, have, do, are, were. So it's just basically a little rule to just keep in mind as you're looking at these sentences. Look at this example. The tiger is often a leader in the jungle. The tiger is singular without an S, so it requires a singular verb, and is ends in S. The tiger is. It's weird. I don't know why it's that way, but it is that way. So something to remember. The tigers are. Now, are does not end in S, but the noun has an S. So it's opposite. Okay. So the tigers are often leaders in the jungle.
The tigers is, that sounds weird.
Yeah. The tigers is, yeah, exactly. Or the tiger are. That sounds weird too. So yeah, it's just, you have to listen to how it sounds. The words who and which are singular if the noun they describe is singular. The words who and which are plural if the noun they describe is plural. So that's the only time when it doesn't change, really. Obey the law, which protects the jungle. obey the laws which protect the jungle. So notice that word protect changes here. You have a singular noun law with protects with an S. You have the plural laws with no S on protect, but which stays the same. Which stays the same. Okay, look at the example at the very bottom here. Mowgli, who has many brothers, lives in a cave. So the original said, Mowgli, who have many brothers, live in a cave. It just sounds weird. So think about that. Mowgli is singular, right? There's just one Mowgli. So the verb is going to have an S. And this verb here has many brothers. This verb here, lives, goes with Mowgli too. So he has and lives. Any questions? I know that's weird. It's a weird rule, but it is what it is. What can I say? English is weird. That's all I got to say about that. And it really is one of the hardest languages to learn. I always thought Chinese was hard. I don't know Chinese, but I thought it would be hard to learn Chinese. But at least in Chinese, things don't change. It's basically the same, even though the letters and there's no letters, really, they're characters. Anyways, some of you might know some Spanish words, though. Spanish is pretty cool. You know Spanish, Kylie and Aubrey?
I know a phrase, and that's it. In counting, it's
Oh,
uno momento, por favor. I use that a lot in my house.
hey, you never know when you're going to need to say that in
I like
Spanish.
getting dressed. My brothers are like, "Hey, come play Legos," and I'm all like, "Uno momento, por favor."
That's right. And your brother's like, huh? Or does he know now what that means? Well, Uno is my goat's name. I already told you about Uno, so. All right. Anybody want to read this morning? Thank you, Kylie.
Quietly, a sleeping brown bear who was named Baloo addressed the wolves.
There you go.
Do you mean the man's cub Mowgli learned from me? I'll speak for him. I mean, speak for he. Sorry, I did some of the.
I know. Well, because it's natural for you to just kind of fix it in your head. It makes sense that way.
No, I
Address.
mean, like, I used the pen already.
Oh, I
I
see.
did the nouns and the
Oh,
articles.
okay. You're going ahead. Hey, hey.
I already watched all the movies before. I got bored, so I just watched all of them.
Addressed means when you speak to a group. Okay. So, and if I took off the ED though, it's address, like where you live. But when you address something or he addressed the group, the wolves, you're speaking to them. That's what that means. All right. We've got 3 articles. Go ahead and find those and label those. Okay. And then we've got 5 nouns. So Matt, help us find the 5 nouns here.
Um, Bear,
Yes.
wolves,
Yes.
man's cub.
So cub, but man's is later, we're going to have to put an apostrophe in there. So it's going to become an adjective. So not.
Okay, and Mowgli.
And Mowgli. Good. That's 1, 2, 3, 4.
How many are there?
There's one
Oh,
more.
5.
Yeah. And it's another name.
Baloo.
Yeah. Or Baloo, I think is how you pronounce it. Good. Pronouns. Jude, how about pronouns?
He, but him, basically.
Yeah. Okay. So you're right. You're talking about this last word right
Yeah.
here? Yep. You're right. We just change it to him and it is a pronoun. Good.
Is man's describing cub or is man's gonna be one?
Man's is going to be like an adjective because it's telling whose cub is it. It's the man's cub. In fact, let's just put the apostrophe in there now while we're talking about it. That's
Okay.
one of those possessive adjectives that tells whose cub, but it's not a pronoun.
Is me one?
Yes.
Okay.
Me is one.
You? Or
Yes.
no?
Yep. That's right. It's kind of hard to spot because it's right here. Yeah,
Aisle? Okay.
aisle. The I, so we need to obviously capitalize that. I'm just going to mark that to remind us. But the I in aisle, it's not, it looks like ill. But anyway, yes, that I in there is the pronoun. Good. And then Aubrey, what about the adjectives? I know we gave away man's already, so we can label that an adjective, but what else do we have?
There's brown
Yes, good,
and sleepy.
good.
How many was it?
That's three. You got it. That's good. Brown and sleepy. That's describing the bear. And then adverb, how about Alex for that part?
Quietly.
Good. That one's easy to spot because it has a ly there. I'm going to come back to the prepositional phrases and the main clause. So let's skip down to the who, which.
Dang it, I think I found some of the prepositions.
Oh, right. And you're next. So maybe I should just have you tell us what are the prepositional phrases?
Dang it. Sorry, I pressed the wrong button.
That's okay.
The wrong ones. Do you mean the man's cup?
That's not a prepositional phrase, actually, because remember, you can't have a verb in there.
Oh, I see. From me.
There you go. From me is one.
Sorry, I came up with a cough.
That's okay.
For him.
For him. They're short. You're right. That's it. From me is a prepositional phrase, and for him is the other prepositional phrase. I'm going to skip down to the who, which clause next. So, Matt, where's the who, which clause?
Who?
Starts with who. Where does it end?
Wolves?
No, right here at Baloo. It's who was named Baloo.
Okay.
Yeah. So we'll label that with a W/W. And then Jude, what about let's look for the subject verb pairs next, and then we can find the other clauses. So
Okay.
how about verbs?
Verbs.
Yeah.
Named one?
Which one?
Named, or is that describing?
No, that's a verb. You got it.
Address,
Yes.
learned or learn.
Yep. Actually, let's look at that one. Do you mean the man's cub Mowgli learned from me? So this doesn't sound right. So remember, the cub is singular, so the verb should have an S on it, right?
Oh, okay then. Yeah, not
Right?
learned.
We just talked about that in our lesson. So it should be learns. The cub learns from me. So whenever the noun is singular, then the verb will have an S on it, and this will label it as a verb.
Okay.
Okay.
Speak.
Speak, yeah.
I'm missing one, right?
You're missing a couple. There's a helping verb right next to named.
Was.
Yeah, was. And then
Mean.
um yeah, it is actually a verb. It doesn't sound like it, but it is. You're right. Do you mean? Yes, mean is a verb.
Good question.
Yeah.
In the statement, do you mean the man's cub Mowgli learns from me? He's asking a question, but it turns out to be more of a statement.
Yeah, that is a great question. So the way my book is showing me, and this is a tricky one, because it's okay, the way you just read it, Kylie, you made it sound like the man's cub was Mowgli. But actually, the question is, do you mean the man's cub? Question mark. It should go here, actually. Mowgli learns from me.
Okay, I was
Those are
confused.
two separate sentences. That's a really good question, but that was hard to point out. It was hard to find that. But that was good. Let's go ahead and squeeze that question mark in there. Do you mean the man's cub? Mowgli learns from me. So two different two different sentences there. So, and to help you out, Jude, do is actually a verb too. It's one of those question verbs at the beginning of the sentence.
Okay.
Yeah, and then I think that's all of them. Yeah. So there's a ton of verbs in here. Now the subjects that go with them, Aubrey, what goes with, so looking at each verb, let's look at the who, which clause. Like, what is the subject inside that clause right there?
Blue.
It's actually who. Anytime you have a who, which clause, it's going to be who or which is the subject most of the time, I should say. And then what about address the wolves? So we'll ignore that who clause. So look back here. Who was it that addressed the wolves?
The bear.
The bear, good. And then here in the question, what is the subject for that?
The wolves.
Actually, it's you right here. So do you mean the man's cub? So mean they're talking to you in that sentence. Well, it's you, the word. So subject is you for that one. How about this one? Mowgli learns from me. So who learns?
Mowgli.
Mowgli. And then the last one, I'll speak for him is the subject here. Who speaks for him?
I'll.
There you go. So I, right over the I. By the way, let's squeeze in that apostrophe right there. And the LL for will is actually a verb. We forgot to catch that one. So will is a verb. It's got a lot going on in that word right there, but you need to mark it like that. So now that we have all of our subject verb pairs, let's look at the main clauses. When you have a main clause and there's an adverb opener right here, we're not going to count that as part of the clause. So I'm going to start the first clause right where it says a, and it's going to go all the way to wolves. That's the first clause. The second clause is the next sentence. Do you mean the man's cub? That's a clause, a main clause. And then Mowgli learns from me. That's another clause. And the last main clause is I'll speak for him. So we've got 4 main clauses in here, but we do not count the ly opener for that. And it is an ly opener, so I'm just going to label it ly adverb here. All right, indent. I'm going a little faster here because we just need to get through this lesson. So you're going to indent this part because it's a new person speaking, new situation in the story. We've got 5 capitals. I bet you can find those by yourself. So go ahead and find those capitals. Okay. Commas. How about Alex? What are the comma rules? What do we need to do? Put one in, take one out. What should we do? There's 3.
We need to put one in front after bear
Good. After bear because of the who clause.
and after Baloo.
Baloo. Yep, that's good. Because it goes around the who clause. That's true.
After Sleepy.
Actually, we're going to take this one out after quietly. Do you remember that when we talked about how these adverbs either modify the whole sentence or they modify just the verb? In this one, do not use a comma if the ly opener modifies the verb. So it's talking about how he addressed the wolves. He quietly addressed. So that's describing more about the verb addressed, not the whole sentence. So that's why you don't need a comma. Quotation marks. He starts right here where it says do, and then it goes all the way to the end here. End marks is a period. We already got the question mark in there. I think we fixed the apostrophes, I'll and man's. Yep, we got those. And then we fixed learn and he, so I think we're done. Didn't even realize it. We were done. That was a lot. These are getting harder, and they're just going to keep getting harder, but you guys got this. You're doing great. Any questions about the practice page? Okie doke. Let's put away grammar for now, and you can get out your binders next. All right. You guys worked on Maui and the giant fish. Does anybody feel like reading their story? We have time for one or two. I see Kylie. She's like, yeah, kind of. Anybody else want to read what they wrote? You don't have to. It's optional. Okay, Kylie, you want to?
Yeah,
Okay, cool.
I guess.
What's your title?
Maui
Maui. Okay.
from Moana.
Oh, yeah.
My title's so awesome. It's one dang word.
That works.
It's easy.
It's easy peasy. That's all right.
Read the whole thing. Do I read the whole thing?
Yeah, read the whole thing.
Okay.
Go for it.
It's horrible, though. It's scary.
Oh.
No, I mean not like that kind of scary. I mean it's bad. As usual, Maui's brothers were quietly paddling away from land without Maui. Maui was angry. They think he's too young. One day, Maui finally had enough. He started to wove his own fishing net, fishing line. As soon as that was done, Maui put on a fishing hook, which was a jawbone his grandmother gave him. Maui spotted his brother's waka and hid aside. When the brothers were too far from land, he showed himself. The brothers rapidly casted out their lines. After fishing for a while, the brothers' waka, which was almost sinking, was full. Now give me some bait, and let me show you how a real man fishes, Maui declared. The brothers started laughing. No, you're not a real man yet. You're just a boy. No, you won't be able to get a big fish, the brothers blurted out. So Maui punched himself in the nose, put his blood on the hook, and casted his lines. The brothers stopped laughing. They spotted Maui's line tightening. Maui caught a huge fish. He told his brother to guard it while he quickly got the people. Instead, the brothers went to chopping, which they made valleys and mountains. This place was known as New Zealand.
Nice.
I
All
wanna
right,
go to
camera guys for
I
Kylie.
wanna go to New Zealand.
Is there more, or is that the end?
No, I just want to go to New Zealand. I don't know why.
Oh, well, I want to go too. I think they have like really cool animals and stuff there. That would be fun to check that out. Very good, Kylie. I like it. I heard all those who, which clauses and all that stuff. And I was trying to listen for any banned words. I didn't hear any, but that's kind of new on our checklist now. So we got to make sure to watch out for those. And speaking of, let's go to your blue page where you have those banned words. It's blue, page 41.
No.
I know, we're adding another one. So you guys, we already did. You should already have on here say, said, seesaw, and go went. Do you guys have those on there?
No. Yeah.
No?
Yes, I do.
Yes, no?
I don't want to follow them.
We're going to add one more. Here on
No.
the end, it's think and thought. And the reason why we ban these words, by the way, is not because they're bad words. Obviously, they're words. You know, we use them all the time. They're not bad words, but they're basic, they're boring, they're simple. And this whole idea of banning them in class, and I mean in your writing, forces you to think of a different way to put it. And that makes your writing better. So that's why we do this. Okay. So can anybody think of any other ways we can say think or thought?
Ponder and wonder.
Pondered. That's a good one.
And wonder.
And wonder. Okay. So
Remember.
I like to put them past tense, so I'm going to put pondered and wondered. Maybe.
Remembered.
Oh, yeah. Good one. I like that one. What else? You
Daydream count.
daydreamed or dreamed?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. That's good. How about imagined? Believed?
Believe I can fly.
Ooh, nice. You're right on key there. Knew, like I knew that. These are things, by the way, you probably noticed. All of these things happen inside your head, right? It's quiet. That's how you think. I mean, we can think out loud sometimes, but 99.9999% of the time we're thinking inside our head. It's quiet on the outside. So that's how you can come
Imagine
up
if everybody did think inside their head and did say it out loud. I hate your chocolate chip cookie.
That would be pretty annoying if we heard everybody's thoughts all the time. It would just be like,
Wait, what? You ate my chocolate chip? I was wondering that.
there's more than these. This is a good start, though. You guys can add to this as you come across those words. Or, well, does anybody else have any other ideas before we put this away? Anybody, any other thoughts on that? Thoughts? Get it? Haha. Okay. Oh, well, I was going to say idea, but that's not a verb. So anyway, I think that's.
Used a banned word.
I know. I use them all the time and when I'm talking. This page is going to go behind a new tab for you. It's going behind banned words. There's a tab for that. It's like there's an app for that. There's a tab for that. At the back, banned words. Put that blue page back there. You also need to put away the pink page, this one, with all the awesome ly adverbs. This is going to be really handy. So you want to make sure to get this in the right spot. This is going to go behind stylistic techniques. This page, this tab right here, stylistic techniques. And it's going to go behind the yellow page, but I want you to add something to the yellow page. So put the pink page behind it, behind the yellow. But keep on this page because we're going to add a number 4. So you should have on your yellow page, you should have ly adverb, who, which clause, strong verb, and number 4. You ready for it? Drum roll, please. We're adding a because clause.
No.
I think those are pretty easy though, actually. Because clause.
It's harder when you can't use it in the beginning of a sentence.
Sometimes that's true. Yeah. I mean, sometimes it's okay to use it at the beginning, but
English class say no.
yeah,
We just don't follow them.
that's right. So you should have ly adverb, who, which, strong verb, and we're adding because clause on number 4. Leave that yellow page in your binder right there. And then the rest of your stuff, I think it all goes away. Oh no, just kidding. Hold on. There's also another yellow page, this one. That one goes behind model charts and outlines. This one right here with the little pictures and stuff goes behind model charts and outlines. Behind all the yellow ones you have in there already. Stick it back behind all that. And then the rest of your stuff can go wherever you keep your finished work. We're not going to do that story that's called Genghis Khan and the Hawk. We're skipping that story. So you can put that away.
But I read those.
You did?
Yeah. Well, I'm gonna
Oh,
get
wait. Hold on. I think I'm ahead of myself here. Put away week 3. That's what you can put away. I was ahead of myself. We are going to read that story.
Yay!
Put away Maui and the giant fish. We're done with that. So wherever you're keeping your finished stuff in your other folder or binder, go ahead and put those away.
I need to get another binder.
You
I'm
should
gonna
get
almost-
another one. Because
What?
well, last year it kind of blew up on us. Remember
Well,
that?
mine didn't.
Oh, good. Okay.
I was a good person. I kid.
Well, if yours didn't, then you're probably fine.
Okay.
Put it behind finished compositions. Go ahead and get out week 4, though. That's the one we're going to work on today. After you get all that stuff away. Anybody have any anybody have any questions while we're doing this? Of what we're doing right now. Okay, put all that stuff
Can I
away.
grab some tea real quick?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Uh-huh. All right. Week 4. It's 1, 2, 3, 4 pages you're going to get out called The King and the Ant or Genghis Khan and the Hawk. I don't know if we'll have time for both stories. We're going to start with The King and the Ant for today.
That one's a bad story. It's just about like the ant does talk about good stuff, but it's
Hey, don't give it away. Don't give it away. You're spoiling it. No, don't give it away.
Oh, sorry, chairs are broken.
Uh-oh. You do need a lined piece of paper though, so get out a lined piece of paper. We're gonna start with that. And go ahead and set it up with your name and date here. Today's 10/8/24. And we're gonna read The King and the Ant first. So skip a line and put The King and ant. Notice and the are not capitalized. It's a capitalization rule for titles. Always the first word is capitalized, always. And then beyond that, it's usually just the keywords. SSC again, story sequence chart. You guys know the drill, about in the middle of your page or a little bit to the left. Draw your line down. We're going to set up your keyword outline real quick. Going to be a short one. We're just going to do 1, 2, 3. Skip a line. 1, 2, 3. Try to keep everything lined up. Try to keep it tidy. Okay, that's going to help you a lot with staying organized. And then I'll slow down here in a second. You guys just keep working on it. Right on top of each Roman numeral, we're going to trace that across. Like that. And we got our little chart here. Matt, do you remember what we put in this first box here? What do we usually talk about first when you're talking about a story?
Like who, where, when, what.
Yes. So I'm going to put here characters/setting. Good, Matt. And it's who, and it's where, and it's when. We're going to save what for later, okay? Those are just the 3 main questions when you're starting off your story. You're going to introduce the characters and the setting mainly.
Okay.
Yeah. And then what about Jude, do you remember what we usually talk about in the middle of the story? What's happening usually in the middle? that part?
Was it what?
It is what? Do you remember what we're looking for, though?
No.
Okay. Conflict slash problem. So you're right. It is a what question. What does the character need? What does the character want? What is the character doing or saying or thinking? All of those things. It happen usually in the middle of a story. That's usually every good story has a conflict or a problem. How about at the end here, Aubrey? Do you remember what we talk about at the end after the problem?
The climax and the resolution.
Good. Climax slash resolution. And that's basically how it's solved. So we're going to use that question word, how. How is it solved? And sometimes we talk about what lesson you can learn from it. That's just a quick way to set up our story sequence chart, just to get in our head the order of how things go. So always introduce characters and setting first, and then the problem comes in, and then how are they solving the problem? That's a basic format for telling a story. Now that you got that, I'll leave it there for a second. We're going to read the story next, and then we're going to start filling in this chart. The ant, or the king and the ant, basically. All right, if you're still writing, that's okay. Keep writing. I'm going to start the story though, because we need to read that. So go ahead and look at The King and the Ant, and I'm going to read it. You guys just follow along on your copy. A great and powerful king possessed a magic carpet, which allowed him to fly high above the earth. He also was able to understand the speech of all the animals and even command them to do his bidding. He had become proud and arrogant, thinking himself the greatest of all men. One day he was flying above a field, and he heard the tiny voice of an ant who called out, "The king is not so great." Descending to the ground, he spotted the little creature standing on a large flat stone. He carefully picked him up and looked him in the eye. "Why do you say such a foolish thing, oh tiny ant? Who do you imagine is greater than I?" the king asked. "Actually, I am greater than you," replied the ant. "You? What? How? Outrageous!" snorted the king. "Well, consider this," answered the ant. "The greatest king in the world stopped when I spoke, came down to earth, bent on one knee, and raised me up. He then asked me a question that he couldn't answer, but I could. Wouldn't you say then that I am greater than the king?" That's one smart ant. That's all I got to say about that. That's pretty smart. "I am the king," he admitted, "and you have indeed shown me that I am not as great as I thought I was. I still have much to learn." Gently, he placed the ant back on the rock. Bowing to the tiny creature, he mounted his carpet and flew toward his palace, thoughtful and a bit less proud. There you go. That one has a good lesson to learn, right? Talking about pride. I mean, it's one thing to be proud of yourself for accomplishing something, but it's another thing if you think you're the best of the best of the best, like you're like it, right? If you have that in your head that you think you're better than everybody else, that is not a good mindset to have. That's prideful. And
Maybe it's just me, but I didn't like the story because I'm that kind of person where I want to see like fighting.
well,
Like
this
they're
ant,
definitely
yeah. Go ahead, Kylie. Sorry.
like the ant used a stick and like whacked the king.
He's like, "I'll show you." But yeah, it worked. It worked. The ant just called out to him. All he had to say was, "You are not the greatest." I mean, or no, yeah. That's all the aunt said was the king is not so great. And that just destroyed everything. And the king was like, what? He was mad. He was like, no way. That's not right. So he had a point though. The aunt had a point and the king received it. So he learned a lesson. So there you go. Now we got to start building our story sequence chart. So we got to start with the characters and the setting. And obviously we have this king. So I'm going to start with Matt looking at the beginning of the story, that very first paragraph. Tell us, who is the first character that's mentioned and what are they doing in that first paragraph?
The first character is okay.
In that first paragraph, who does the story mention first?
The king.
Yes, so we are going to talk about the king. So let's put king here. And tell me a little bit about the king. What is his personality like?
He's great and powerful, and he could understand the speech of animals.
Yes, that's true too.
He was proud and arrogant.
Proud and arrogant, exactly. And he's got this magic carpet. So I like that word proud. And then I'm gonna mention his carpet because he's actually that's how it starts out. He's coming in on this carpet. So I'm gonna put M carpet so I know it's magic carpet. That way we don't use up our third word with magic. So talking about the king, he's prideful, he's proud, he's got this magic carpet. And he thinks he's the greatest of all men and he's arrogant. I heard you say that word too. I think we'll put arrogant here. And greatest of all men. I'm going to put just greatest of all. Maybe I'll draw a little guy here. Greatest of all man. And the other thing you mentioned, Matt, was that he can talk to animals. He understands speech. Okay, so understand speech, animals. And then let's see, Jude, what is he? So he's on his magic carpet, but where is he flying? I'm still looking at that first paragraph right at the beginning where it's introducing. Well, it kind of talks about it in the second paragraph too, but where is he flying?
High above the earth.
High above the earth, yes. And then it down here it talks about above a field. So I'm going to say flying. Let's just put above earth. I don't know why they didn't capitalize Earth in this story. It should be because I think all the planets have a capital. That's the name of their planet. So maybe it's because it says the Earth. Oh, you know what? It could be. I know why. It could be because it's kind of an older story. Maybe they're referring to Earth as like the dirt. You know how some people call the dirt or the ground Earth? Maybe that's why. Anyway, we'll just leave it like that for now. But and then Alex, he hears something. He's flying above the earth. What does he hear?
The tiny voice.
Tiny voice. What is the tiny voice saying?
The king is not so great.
The king is not so great. And we know that the tiny voice is the ant. So we'll bring the ant onto the scene here. And he's saying the king is not great. So you can either do like X great, or I'm thinking of doing great circle with a line through it like that. The king is not great. And then Aubrey, how does the king respond to that? He's hearing something go, the king is not so great. How does he respond to that?
He flew down and he carefully picked him up.
Yes, good. So he flew down and he was kind of confused and maybe even mad at first. I think that's probably how he was feeling. I would say he was angry because he was offended, right? That would be a good word to use. He was offended. He was like, oh, how dare they? Who is that that's saying that I am not so great? So I'm going to put like K, offended, and upset. And you guys can put different words if you want, but and then he flies down. I'm just going to put a down arrow, but you're getting the idea. We're basically telling the whole plot of the story in order of what's going on, and we're also being mindful of what these different categories are. So we're kind of coming into the problem now. The problem is the king is offended by this ant. So now we're talking about what they said and what happened. And you're right, he carefully picked up the ant. And then Alex, what did he ask the ant?
Why do you say a foolish thing?
Okay,
Who
good.
do who do you imagine is greater than I am?
Okay, good. So he carefully picked up the ant. So let's see, how could we put that? Maybe picked up ant. I'm just going to put an A here. And maybe like, why foolish? Why are you saying such a foolish thing? I'm going to circle that the A and the K just for us to remember it's king and ant because we're going to need that as we go through this here. All right, so Kylie, then at that point, what else does the ant say? What is dialogue between the ant and the king? So the king is like, why would you say such a foolish thing? Well, now the ant's going to explain it. And what did the ant say?
For one thing, you came down here and you came down, you stood on one knee, picked me up, and something, something, something.
Yeah, but before that, right here, I'm thinking right here where he says, actually, I am greater than you. That was the first thing he said.
That's what he said.
Yeah. So maybe we could say like the ant said, I greater. And the king, then he says, how? So there's going to be a little dialogue here between the ant and the king.
I'm just gonna put king baffled.
Baffled, that's a great word. That would be a good strong verb to use. And then he starts explaining it. This is where it's going to get a little tricky because we're resolving it, right? The problem is the ant thinks that he's greater than the king, and now he's explaining why. So it's kind of like wrapping up this story here. So the ant is explaining to the king, I'm just going to say, you stopped and came down, right? I'm just going to do a down arrow, even though it's only 2 words. You stopped and came down. And he lifted up the ant and he got down on a knee, right? Let's see, what order was that? Bent down on one knee and raised me up. So king bent knee. Whoops, not new, knee. Knee. And lifted ant up. This says knee. Sorry, my marker is not Knee. So king bent knee, lifted ant up. Let me zoom in a little. And then that's where the king admits something. So Matt, what is the king going to admit at that point? Toward the end.
It's the wrong story. Where is it? He admits that he is not the greater king.
That's right. So let's say something about that. The king, again, K, he says, you have indeed shown me that I am not as great as I thought I was. Great, not, right? I'm going to draw a line through that. As thought. That's how I'm going to put it. You guys can decide how that makes sense to you. That's just how I'm writing it.
Isn't that a banned word?
Yes, it is. And it's okay to have a banned word on your story sequence chart, but when you go to write it, pick something different than thought. What could you say instead of thought there?
Something.
Something. Maybe believed. I'm not as great as I believed I was. That would work. In fact, let's just put in parentheses believed so we can remember not to use thought there. That's just a note, a side note. And then it says that the king flew back to his palace, flew towards his palace. So the king, the K again, flew. I'm just going to do an arrow to his palace. And he was less proud. All right. We're a little bit over, but your job is going to be to rewrite this story using the story sequence chart. But I'm going to give you an option here. Okay, this is totally an option. If you want to change the characters and change the setting, but have the same type of issue between your characters, you can make up your own version of the story if you want. If you want to just stick to this and write about the king and the ant, you can. Does that make sense? If you want to change it up and maybe it's between, instead of a king and an ant, maybe it's between a teacher and a mouse.
A hunter and a tiger.
Or tiger. There you go. So you
rips off the person's head.
You can change up, like it could be a completely different characters if you want. I'm going to give you that freedom to write it how you want to. Or if that's too much stress and you're like, I don't know how to come up with that, then just write it like this. Okay, just use this. But make sure to use your checklist. Aubrey?
If we do it like that, do we have to rewrite the whole story sequence chart?
Great question. I'm going to say no to that. You can make it up as you go along, but stay with the same format, okay? So you can think of it in your head, the characters in the setting, and build on that. But that's a great question. And you really only need 4 sentences for each paragraph, but you can add a little more if you need to. Does that make sense? I'm going to give you a little more flexibility with this assignment. Really quick, because I know we're super late. All the dress ups here are the banned words. Don't use the banned words. I'm going to be looking for those this week. Okay? Use different words. Any other last minute questions before you go? No? Okay, so you're going to either write The King and the Ant or your own version of that story with different characters in a different setting, and you don't have to rewrite the story sequence chart. You could just go for it. All right, you guys, good job today. See you next week.
Thank you.